MAVIC MINI is the latest in DJI's class-leading line of drones. As a sort of Spark version 2, the MAVIC MINI is the new budget-friendly travel drone made for everyone. But this comes at a cost, with some of DJI's best technologies being stripped down for the MAVIC MINI. But it keeps the essentials of DJI's previous drones. It is just amazing to fly, and the camera is great. So why even consider one of the bigger and more expensive models over this? Well, despite its impressive features, the MAVIC MINI does fall short in a few areas. Inside the box for the non-Flymore kit is simply just the drone itself, controller, spare propellers, thumbsticks, and cables. It's a pretty bare bones kit, especially without an included case, but I think that's fair for the price. Weighing just 250 grams, it doesn't feel cheap, but neither does it feel premium. There's a bit of a hollow sound when you tap it, and more worryingly, the front arms flex quite a lot with only a little bit of force. Now, it's not a big problem, but the long-term crash durability of MAVIC MINI doesn't look too promising. MAVIC MINI sports the classic MAVIC look, so an angular, functional design. With an underslung front-mounted camera, which we'll get to later, and the folding arms, MAVIC MINI is unmistakably a DJI MAVIC drone. There's no colour choices for this model, but I quite like the undercoat tone. It's plain, but simple. Where the front sensors would be on other MAVIC drones, there's nothing now but pieces of plastic, so they're just design features rather than a failsafe. At first, I was a bit thrown off with the lack of protection, having used the Spark and the MAVIC Air before this. But if the MAVIC MINI had vision sensors, I wouldn't have been able to capture this shot without the drone stopping immediately. Aside from the one scenario where not having vision sensors was useful, you probably will find that you have to be a little bit more cautious when you're flying this drone. Around the back are the coverless micro SD card port and micro USB ports. There's no USB-C here, which is a bit disappointing, and the lack of a cover is especially not ideal, as rain could potentially get into the ports and cause problems. When the battery is removed, you can see just how tiny all of the technology is within the drone, and it's insane what you get considering its size. As you'd expect, the propellers fold down, and this is great for storing the drone and preventing crashes, but the removal of the spring-loaded mount that was used on the MAVIC MINI and the Spark is just irritating. Instead, each blade is its own individual piece that locks on with a bolt. This is inconvenient in a number of ways, but most of all, I really don't want to be carrying around a screwdriver just to replace a broken blade. The satisfaction of the folding mechanisms hasn't changed from the MAVIC Air, and they feel seriously robust, so you know they're not going to unlock mid-flight. Folding down to the size of an iPhone X and weighing only 250 grams, the portability of this drone is one of the best parts of it. I can fit the MAVIC MINI, its controller, a charger into a small shoulder bag, with room for another camera and lens too. There's no other drone that offers this level of portability, along with this level of video and photo quality, anywhere near this price range. But being so small and weighing so little isn't all positives. The maximum wind tolerance for this drone is 18 miles per hour, and anything above that is just too much for this drone to handle. And I have found that it does get blown around a little bit in those stronger winds, but it is manageable. MAVIC MINI's controller is essentially the Spark controller without the sport mode switch, and it's a great thing to use. It has the same removable thumbsticks that the MAVIC Air had, as well as the same connection method. However, it doesnn't have a full-size USB-A port, so it'll be harder to connect phones externally or iPads to this controller. Unfortunately, the connection between the controller and the drone is Wi-Fi based, so it's expected that the range won't be amazing. I can get just about 700 meters away without the video dropping transmission, which, for reference, with the MAVIC Air I had about 1300 meters, so all things considered this isn't too bad. At first I wasn't expecting DJI's new Fly app to be anywhere near as good as DJI Go, but honestly the simplicity of it just makes me prefer it over DJI Go. You still have detailed flight logs that are account based, and the drone control window that now has a cleaned up UI that shows you only what you need to know when you're flying. The video downlink is only 720p at 30 frames a second, which is honestly fine, but unlike the MAVIC Air or the Spark, the downlink isn't saved to your camera roll as a flight log. Instead you don't get a saved version at all, and I actually really miss this. It always served as a useful way to review footage whilst you're in a location to know if you got the shot or not. Amazingly, the flight characteristics of this drone are exactly the same as DJI's other drones, which is seriously impressive. It's responsive, able to hover well using its downward vision sensors and GPS, and it feels so great to fly in each of its flight modes. I find myself using the P or position mode more than any of the others. It's just over half the speed of sport mode, but it doesn't suffer from the unstable camera motions that sport mode includes. C or cine mode I found to be great when you're lower down flying and following a specific subject. With a maximum speed of 4 meters per second, it's the smoothest of all the flight modes, leaving you the ability to remap time in post without any jerky movements. And sport mode has a maximum speed of just under 30 miles per hour, which is just insane for a drone like this. It's useful if you're following faster moving objects, and it's honestly the quickest way to get the Mavic Mini out to the subject that you're filming. When I'm flying in sport mode in strong winds, I find that there are constant warnings for power level insufficient when going full throttle forwards. As batteries age and time goes on, this could become an issue for the flight of the drone, but I have yet to notice any issues. With its 3-axis gimbal stabilizing a 2/3 of an inch 12 megapixel sensor with a 24mm equivalent lens, the Mavic Mini has a far superior camera than the Spark, despite costing less. Photos from this camera look great. With a 24mm equivalent field of view, you're given pretty good framing flexibility, and I've been more than happy with every photo I've taken with this drone. The photo recording options are also decent, but the lack of RAW is something that does limit how far you can push the files from this drone. However, you do get full manual control over the photo functionality of the drone, which allows you to get the most out of JPEG as you can, and the results can be really impressive. On the video side, it shoots up to 2.7K in 25 or 30 frames a second at 40 megabits per second. Video looks clean with a respectable level of sharpness for such a low bitrate, and despite being just a little bit noisy when in lower light levels, the video quality is actually great considering the price, size, and most importantly, the weight of this drone. However, with no manual controls at all, exposure changes can ruin some shots if you forget to set the exposure lock. What's worse is that because you can't set the ISO or shutter speed, video tends to be shot at a higher ISO and faster shutter speed than I'd like, leading to some choppy looking footage. You do have exposure lock and exposure compensation, which you can use to get just about the perfect shot, but it would just be nicer to have complete manual controls. Now, the difference between the Mavic Mini's footage and the camera that I'm shooting my A-roll on is obviously going to be quite noticeable, but if you only saw the Mavic Mini alone, you'd be pretty impressed with it, especially when you consider how small this drone is. I think it would be unreasonable to ask for video quality that's any better than this. And with a flight time of exactly half an hour, you've got more than enough time to fly out to a location, fly back, get a load of shots, a load of videos. You can get every single shot that you could possibly need and more, and still have time to make it home before the drone crashes itself. And those 30 minutes are honestly some of the best 30 minutes that you can get out of any drone. This thing is a lot of fun to fly. What DJI have created here is probably the most streamlined approach to an entry-level drone. There's no fuss involved, it's as simple as unfolding the arms, putting your phone in the controller, and you're good to fly. This is the drone that I take absolutely everywhere with me. There's no fuss about when I can pack it and when I can't. It's small enough to fit in just a tiny shoulder bag with my actual photo camera inside of it. And it flies for half an hour, meaning I only need to take the one battery out with the one controller, and that's it. It's just a simple, ready-to-fly kit that offers you some of the best drone video you'll ever get for something this small, and that is this price tag. Despite everything that DJI have cut out of this drone, I still believe this is probably the best drone that anyone can buy at this current time. What DJI have created is not only the most convenient drone that they've ever made, but it's also my favourite. Drones have always been something that I've wanted to review more on this channel, and I do find it quite hard sometimes to actually get down to just doing some damn work, because I have college work to do, the weather's never working for drones. Honestly, the UK just has the worst weather whenever I need it to be good. You know, sometimes it can just be a little bit hard to get into a project. Sometimes I start a video and then I get a bit disheartened because I'm thinking, you know, there's other people doing better stuff than me on YouTube and they're doing it more regularly, and they're actually like making content, and they, you know, they've sort of got a plan for what they're doing, and I guess I don't. But at the same time then, I feel like if I did have a plan, I would end up being boring again. I guess drone reviews are also a sort of treat to myself, because I've been flying drones for so many years now. I started building my own drones at the age of 15. In fact, I had an entire YouTube channel based around that alone. But that was absolutely awesome, and that was back in about 2015. And here we are these days with a drone the size of an iPhone that can do pretty much 10 times the stuff that a drone like that could do when that was so big and so expensive in comparison. They say in life you should always do what you love, and I truly love flying drones and reviewing technology, and those two things right now I'm kind of struggling to actually do, but you know, I'm trying to get myself back into the flow.